Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak wa Kareem. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Raquel Ukeles, and I am the curator of the Islam and Middle East collection at the National Library of Israel. I am your moderator for this panel, and I'm thrilled to be here. The Quran lays out a vision for all of humanity. We are all linked as one universal family, servants of God. And at the same time, the Quran recognizes our diversity. We are many people and tribes. If we return to the beginning of Islamic history, from 100 years after the Prophet Muhammad and the first Muslim community in Medina in Saudi Arabia, the Islamic Empire spread to an area, a region that was larger than the Roman Empire in its height. But this is just the beginning of the story. Over the next 1,000 years and more, Islam has spread to all corners of the globe. In most cases, not by the sword, which was a Western misconception that unfortunately continues until today. But most often, Islam spread slowly, over time, through many different actors, through missionaries, through Sufis, through persuasion, through encouragement, as well as other means. And slowly, the message of Islam entered into the far reaches of the globe. Islam is a global religion and a set of diverse cultures. This evening, thanks to Zoom and to the generosity of our distinguished panelists, we have the opportunity to hear from Muslim thinkers, scholars, and activists across the world, and to listen for common threads and themes, for diverse ideas and practices, for places of overlap and for distinction. I have to admit that when we first planned this panel, I immediately thought of this seminal work of the anthropologist Clifford Geertz from 1971. Geertz brought together what he called two quite contrasting civilizations, Indonesia and Morocco. And he traces in this work the evolution of their classical religious styles, which with different settings and unique histories produced strikingly different spiritual climates. These are Clifford Geertz's words. This was in 1971, and this book shaped the next generation or two of Western academics and how they think about Islam, breaking down the idea that there was one normative Islam and expanding outward. Today, there's even greater awareness and recognition of Islam on all continents, including North and South America, Asia and Africa, Australia, North, South, East, and West. And so instead of going back to Geertz, I want to launch our discussions from somewhere else. Shahab Ahmed was a brilliant scholar who unfortunately died tragically at a young age. Before he passed away, he produced a monumental work which he called What is Islam? The Importance of Being Islamic. And so here I took a quote and adapted it a little bit, and I want to use it to encourage us to listen for what he called a common paradigm of Islamic life and thought by which Muslims imagine, conceptualize, valorize, articulate, and give mutually communicable meaning to their lives in terms of Islam. Shahab Ahmed challenges us to go beyond the simple dichotomy of global and local, of unity and diversity, but rather he challenges us to understand and appreciate different ways that our panelists anchor texts, ideas, and traditions in Islam. This panel then becomes much more than a collection of individual reflections, but rather a window into the rich layers of meaning that Muslims still derive from Islam as a tradition and worldview. And I know that their insights will enrich not only our understanding of Islam, but also each and every one of our self-identities and self-understandings as religious and humanistic creatures. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists who will each speak for a short period of time. And I've asked each of them to begin our conversation with a very broadly defined question of what does Ramadan mean to you? To enable each and every one of you, our panelists, to speak from where your own starting point is. We will begin with Dr. Munir, who is the head of the Islamic and Middle East Research Center at the University of Indonesia in Jakarta. We will then move from Indonesia to Morocco to hear from Maroua Ech, who is an activist based in Tufan in Muslim, Jewish, interreligious dialogue, and so much more. We will then hear from Tufan Kutay Boran, who is originally from Turkey, from Istanbul, and is currently a PhD candidate in the University of Gadjah Mada in Jogjakarta, Indonesia. Kutay will be able to share with us both ideas and insights about Turkey and also his reflections, comparative reflections of living in Indonesia during Ramadan this year. And then finally, our co-host from here in this land, Muad, who is the Secretary General of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the Holy Land. I have, of course, asked each of our panelists to share a little bit about Islam in their own countries so that we can all have a greater understanding of the different regions and how they think about Islam. All right, I turn to Dr. Munir. I will stop my PowerPoint so he can share his.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom alaikum. Peace be upon you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ukeles, for opening the remarks of this two meetings. Mr. Tufan Kutay Barons, Maroua Ech, and Mr. Muad Odeh. I think that Mr. Tufan Kutay Baron, we ever met at the University of Indonesia once ago with the meeting of the Turkey-Israel's political future, I guess. Yeah. Ms. Mora, Dr. Jeremy from Australia sends a message. Salam to you. And this Dr. Jeremy Jones is unable to join. I would like to address this opportunity. Any questions about current Indonesian phenomenon of the Ramadan and about anything that are related to the history of the entry of Islam toward the Southeast Asia, especially to Indonesia, to Nusantara prior to the name in Indonesia established. The name was Nusantara. And also current traditions that's going on here in Jakarta in the villages compared to the previous history of the entry of Islam into Nusantara with a very traditional and primitive beginnings. Textual analysis a little bit concerning on the Ramadans. I would like to address also concerning the text in the Quran that related to the previous text of the covenants of the Torah and Gospel. So as it's mentioned in the Quran, that the prescriptions of this Ramadan fast is as the way God prescribed upon the people of covenants prior to the era of Muhammad. The textual analysis I would like to address as well. Whenever any questions would like to develop, that's explained. Thank you for me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is 7 minutes, so Dr. Ukeles.
Hi, you have a few more minutes. If you could talk a little bit more about Ramadan and how you understand Ramadan. If you would like, we can come back to you later, but if you want to, you have a few more minutes.
Okay, sure. Let me begin with the history of the entry of Islam into the Southeast Asia and the current Ramadan here in Jakarta. How do I share the screens? Okay. Muslim voice from Indonesia, Morocco, Turkey, and Israel. Here we are located in the Southeast Asia, next to Australia, between Australia and China. And this is the new Jakarta of today. This is timelines, and where is Indonesia in these timelines? Beginning of the birth of Prophet Muhammad in about 569, about that, and the collapse of Ottoman Empire, 1922, and Islam entered to Indonesia, to the Nusantara, basically as early as 7th century, during the caliphs of Ottoman, Uthman bin Affan. That minority, according to Marco Polo diary, was written that Marco Polo of Spain ever entered the harbor of Sumatra, and he was astonished that in the harbor was majority Muslim. That was diary in the 13th century. Also, the traveler from Morocco entered to Irian, West Irian, and today's Papua, and found the harbor, and found the people of the local people were all naked. And the word naked in Arabic word is Uryan. So that is Uryan, all naked, and become the name is Irian Jaya. And he was a Moroccan traveler, Ibnu Battuta. These are roughly the same century with Marco Polo. So if Marco Polo already astonished in the 13th century of the Common Era, the Sumatran harbor of the northern Sumatra, Perlak Harbor, is already majority of Muslim there, meaning that starting prior to 13th century. And also in the time in the early of 7th century, 8th century, there was burial in Aceh, in written there name, Arabic name, the meaning that the entry of Islam is as early as that century. That is Cordoba, in the east, and in the west. In the west is Cordoba, in the east Asfahan. That was starting from the 711 or the early of 8th century, and Cordoba was the headquarters of Caliphate up to the east, with the part of Russia. And this is the maps of the 8th century, that is map of 700.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Doctor. Can you enlarge the PowerPoint, please?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Could you please enlarge the PowerPoint? It's hard to see this way. Thank you. Sorry.
Hold on. How to do that? Okay. This is a map of the th century, while
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the side issues of bringing together panelists from across the world is we are reliant upon different kinds of internet capacity. And so as we see that Dr. Munir has dropped out for a moment, let's give him another minute. And if not, then we will move to the next panelist and we'll come back to him when he returns, okay?
Dr. Ukeles, he's having trouble with his PC. Please move on and he'll rejoin.
Okay. So we have begun the long Islamic journey with Dr. Munir. And as he mentioned, when he talked about the edges of the classical Islamic world, he mentioned Cordoba and Isfahan. And so we're going to lean towards the Islamic West. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Maroua Ech, who will share some introductory remarks.
Hi everyone, Ramadan Mubarak Kareem. I hope everyone is doing well. I am Maroua Ech from Morocco. I'm a translator and a teacher. I'm also a member and a program coordinator of the Holocaust Educational Program with Mimuna Association, which was created by Muslim students and youth to preserve the Moroccan Jewish heritage. I have also taken part of multiple interfaith dialogue programs. I'm going to be brief. I'm going to try to be brief. I'll start by saying a few words about Islam in Morocco. I'm going to try to share with you a slide in order for you to keep up a little bit with what I'm going to say. So bear with me 1 second. Can you see it? Can you see the slide? Okay. So Islam in Morocco leads a moderate and tolerant Islam and approach to Islam. It is a unified approach throughout all of Morocco. Morocco follows the Maliki Sunni school along with Ash'ari theology and the Moroccan Sufism. I'm going to explain a little bit each part. So the Maliki school of Islamic jurisprudence relies mainly on the Quran and Hadith for its Islamic law. The Ash'ari theology believes in, for example, only God knows what's in the heart. Muslim must believe in all pillars of Islam and in all of the prophets of Islam, from Adam to Muhammad, which means that we do not neglect the other religions. No, it is Islam follows all of the other religions, mainly the Abrahamic religions. Also, the Moroccan Islam is heavily influenced by the Junaid Sufism, which mainly focuses on the sober school, in which people who experience the fana themselves find themselves returned to their senses by God, not the other way around. There are many zawiyas. With zawiya is a North African term which means schools or Sufi lodge across Morocco. In the past, they were the primary source of education. Some still offer Quranic teachings and hold Sufi services. Also, the King of Morocco is the leader and the prince of all of the believers. That means not only Muslims, but also the other religions in Morocco. As you know, Morocco does not only have Islam as the main religion in the constitution, but we also have Judaism, which means that the King of Morocco is also the leader of the Jewish community in Morocco. To me, Ramadan, I'm going to talk about Ramadan now. Ramadan is one of the pillars of Islam. So in order to be a Muslim, you need to fast Ramadan. We fast for a duration of a month. The month is basically decided by the scene of the moon, and we fast from sunrise to sunset every day. As you know, previously the tradition of fasting is actually in all of the Abrahamic religions, and the Quran says in Surah Al-Baqarah, "O you who have believed, decreed upon you is fasting, as it was decreed upon those before you, that you may become righteous." So in order to be a Muslim, you have to fast and to follow what other religions have brought in with them. So to me personally, Ramadan is a month in which I actually take time to revise myself on things that I might be doing wrong in the eyes of religion. It is one of the only months that I actually make sure to read Quran. Most of the rest of the year, I'm just running here and there, so I don't really have time to focus on religion as religion and to read Quran. This month is not only about fasting and not eating to me. I do not worry much about what I eat and what I want to eat throughout the day, but also about what I can do for others who are in need. I don't know, like something like a donation to help in any way. Throughout like the past years, we would do iftar together with orphans. We would try to do iftars with elderly people. We also try to do donations, as the Association of Mimuna tried to do it with the Jewish community for the poor neighborhoods across Moroccan cities. So yeah, we try to think about the others whom are in actual need. And we need, as Muslims who fast, not to only starve ourselves, but to think about those who do not have means to eat, or to, who spend the entire year basically fasting. It is also a shared time. It is not just about fasting, doing all of the prayers and so on. It is time to think about your family, to spend time with family. So for me personally, I try to have iftar, dinner, and sahur with them. It also makes me take time to visit friends or distant family, to have actually an iftar with them, which is a source of connection and liaison with the community and the society in general. That's basically it for the introduction. I tried to be brief and talk about everything that I believe in and think about. So yeah, thank you so much for your time and for your listening.
Thank you very much, Maroua. We turn now to Tufan Kutay Boran, who, as I mentioned, is of Turkish origin and is currently studying for his doctorate in Indonesia. Hello, what time is it? First of all, what time is it in Indonesia right now?
Now it is 9:30 in Indonesia. There is a very good warm air. I would like to deliver my thanks to you, Raquel, and others. It's a great honor for me to be here. I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Tufan Boran, and I'm a PhD student in Gadjah University. I'm also an official scholarship student of the Ministry of National Education, and currently I'm conducting my research about Indonesian foreign policy in the Department of Politics and Government in Gadjah University. the points how Turks meet with Islam, which is the back to Battle of Talas in 751. Battle of Talas actually occupies an important position in the transition of Turks to Islam. And this war, which took place between the Islamic army received Turkish support and the Chinese, was a turning point in the transition of Turks to Islam. The Turks have carried absolute numbers to Islam since then, and Turks become a protector of Islam with the occupation of the kingdom by Yavuz Sultan Selim with the War of Mercidabek. Ottoman Sultan became a Khalifa since that time with the 16th century. But after the Turkish Republic is established in 1923, the title of Caliphate was abolished. And also it's very interesting that today the Turkish people actually have some traditions before they meet with Islam, and they are still practicing it. After our ancestors in Central Asia accepted Islam, they did not abandon their old beliefs completely, and they put forward practices that are the synthesis of their old beliefs and Islamic beliefs. The myths, which are sacred to our Central Asian ancestors, undoubtedly contain logical explanations according to their thinking and are integral part of their lives, even though the old ways of thinking began to change with the influence of Islam. These myths continue to live, and they continue to unite Islamic. However, in the end, the first meanings of this were forgotten, and traditions and superstitions remain, which we do not fully know today. I want to give some examples about all Turkic beliefs, which is, for example, our tombstones. Today, planting stones in graves and decorating this stone to become a work of art is only seen in Anatolia, in Turkey, in Islamic geography. And for example, the right foot also is very important for Turkish society. The fact that the right foot is ahead when someone leaving the house is a ritual from actually shamanic culture, which is actually creating ancestors' religion before they met with Islam. It is believed that passing with the left foot will bring bad luck to a person. Yeah, in Turkey today, we have more examples of this kind of traditions. I only gave some popular ones actually as an example, and Turkish people still sometimes don't not believe it is actually come from old Turkic beliefs, which is very surprising. I'm also actually meeting with lots of tradition today that I didn't know that is actually the aspect of the shamanic culture. What about Turkey today? Turkey is a modern Islamic country, and there is no Sharia law applied by the government since the establishment of the republic in 1923. Moreover, this identity of Turkey is under the protection of the 1922 constitution. First of all, since I cannot say who believes what as a religion in a country, I can only state that approximately 99% of the Turkish citizens carry Islam as their religion in their ID cards. And according to the study published by the Presidency of Religious Affairs in 2014, I also want to tell the distribution of Islamic sects in Turkey. And Turkey today got two major Islamic sects. For example, Hanafis are 78%, Shafis are 12%, and the rest of them goes like this. Hanbalis 1 per 1,000, Malikis 3 per 1,000, and Jafaris 1%. But since our topic is Ramadan, I also want to give some perception of Turkish people and how they perceive the Ramadan and about their fasting habits or fitra habits or zakat habits. So this is also an official poll by the Presidency of Religious Affairs in 2014. The rate of those who shared the view that I will fast in Ramadan as long as my health permits was 84%, while those who said I do not ever fast were 3%. And 80% of men, I'm now talking about the gender, 80% of the men state that they fasted in Ramadan as long as their health is allowed. And this rate was 86% for women. And for zakat and fitra, when the status of the people performing zakat worship was examined, the ratio of those who stated they gave zakat every year when their financial status was appropriate was 72%. Even if the financial situation is appropriate, the rate of those who do not give zakat remain at 2%. And 50% of the participants state that their financial situation is not suitable for giving zakat, while 12% said that they sometimes give zakat when the financial situation is appropriate. And fitra, 83% of the participants stated that whenever their financial situation is appropriate, they give fitra every year. So this is some general framework of Islam in Turkey. But I also want to talk about a little what Ramadan means for me. I can actually divide this into two parts. First of all, Ramadan is a better understanding of a person who cannot find food regularly every day. More specifically, actually, we understand what hunger means is. When we're breaking the fasting, we understand much more about our position in the world, actually. And while millions of Muslims break their fasting, they gather at the same point, regardless of what are their financial positions or position in the society, which is the same feeling while praying in the mosque or masjid. At the same time, you never think about, like when you're in masjid, you never think about the person nearby you, but you feel that there's a brother, but only brother nearby you who can practice praying with you. I mean, so such practices pave to society to get closer to each other since you are in the same position in the eye of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the other hand, we religiously actually discipline our souls or nafs as much as possible, not approach to the things that are forbidden to us while we are fasting. Also discipline our souls and rest our souls. At the same time, not only our body, but also our nafs during Ramadan, during our fasting, push us to act in the same line after Ramadan. First of all, we see that eating less eating less is enough for people, right? We can recognize it in Ramadan. We can see that a single meal per day is enough for a person, and that person can continue his or her daily life if there is no major health problem or valid reason. So this allows us to understand people who cannot find a meal a day in the world. And the other aspect for me is tolerance, for example. In Ramadan, we show more tolerance to people. In another meaning, it's actually a self-education for us. Moreover, showing the tolerance or smiling faces to others, actually, what we need most today. And Ramadan teaches me well about this. This is what I'm thinking about the Ramadan as an individual. But there's also social dimensions for me, which is Ramadan means to see people that I can't see in my in my routine. One of the biggest example of this, I want to give an example about my life. Me and some of my close friends, which is our friendship dates back to 2008, gather in Ramadan month, gather in one iftar, which provide us an opportunity to see each other. Apart from this, I also want to say this word, which is a very famous word in Turkey. This evening, we are invited to iftar, which emphasize for example, young married couples can be invited to iftar from their families or relatives visiting each other at iftar. In Turkey, there are millions maybe who can visit each other only in Ramadan. So Ramadan actually provides us the social solidarity dimension of Ramadan. I mean, the fasting, iftar, provides us the social solidarity dimension. So maybe I should stop. I talk a lot about this for the first part. I can say about this as an individual dimension and the social dimension of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As I wrote, we're not only dealing with crossing a very large geographic terrain and many time zones, but because of Corona restrictions, people are limited in terms of their access to different levels of Wi-Fi. And so I appreciate it. In Israel, we say, we're flowing together. And I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much, Kutay, for adding the dimensions of social solidarity and tolerance to Maroua's beautiful introduction about what is Moroccan Islam in general, and also her own personal way of thinking about Ramadan, which, you know, we as non-Muslims focus a lot on the challenge of fasting. How can you fast day in, day out for 30 days? But what you said really moved me about that it goes it goes beyond the issue of food. We'll talk about food in a little bit, but that there's a very strong communal, family, and community shared experience of Ramadan. I want to welcome back Munir. Noor, if you would allow us to go to hear from Muad Odeh, and then we will come back to you to hear your personal way of thinking about Ramadan for a few more minutes, and then I want to raise a few questions. And so I turn to Muad Odeh, who is coming all the way from Haifa to be with us. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and shalom gab likul khaim. As my name is Muad Odeh, I'm from Haifa, representing the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. I'll just give you a background about us, who we are. I think Ahmadiyya Muslim community, it's an Islamic organization established in 1889 by the founder. His name is Mirza Ghulam Ahmad in the city of Qadian in Punjab in India. Declared himself that he is the reformer that we're waiting for, the Mahdi and the Prophet Messiah. And his mission, or our mission, is to fix the interpretations in religions. I think part of what we are suffering today is from wrong interpretations of Holy Scriptures in Islam, Judaism, Christianity. There are some issues with with the interpretation. And I think what we are doing in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, we're trying our best to promote the true Islamic teachings, which is based on the Quranic teachings and Prophet Muhammad teachings. And I think also to promote that religion should and must have to declare, or to promote peace and love and care among people, not any violence or among any other people. I think that's what we are trying to do in Ahmadiyya Muslim community. To say about how in terms of Muslims in the Holy Land, if you're counting like Israel, Palestine, and Gaza, I think in Israel we're having around 2.2 million Muslims here in Israel. And if you count the Palestinian Authority and Gaza, we have also more than 5 million people. So I think that's the issue of the numbers of the Muslims living in this, what we can call it, the Holy Land here. for me, about Ramadan and what happened, I think Ramadan, I want to take one of the Sufis who said, I think this also the spirit of Ramadan is to eat less, talk less, and sleep less. And I think this is the essence of Ramadan also. I think, and if we take care of these things, we can handle hardship in life. If you talk less and you eat less and you sleep less, you can survive in life, and in some circumstances in your life. And I think this is also, in my mind, it's a training month. It's sometimes I call it a spiritual boot camp. It's a spiritual boot camp with God. That it is hard. Yes, it's the month of Ramadan. It's hard, especially people of us who are living in a hot places, and and you cannot drink or eat. And I think this is also, and I think this is the spiritual an aspect of it. And also it's to change. I think it will be, as what Maroua and other colleagues talks about, there's a way of changing. I think if we talk now scientific and psychology, and I think one of the psychologists said that if you want to change a behavior, you have between 30 and 40 days to change something in your life. And the same thing with Ramadan. I think when God for 11 months we doing, like, if we're avoiding to do sins or bad things. And I think in Ramadan also God forbid us to do the halal things. God forbid for us to eat and to drink. And I think this is also, it's a month of just to see, to avoid also things that we are allowed to do. And I think that's what we talks about, that, and also as a spiritual, a closing to God. I think we're becoming closer to God. And that's the essence of Ramadan also. Become closer to God and closer to our humanity. And that's what the essence of Ramadan also. And also when we talk about controlling desires and hardship and survival, and also to appreciate what you have, appreciate what we have now. And I think as a person now we're still fasting, and I think in daily life, if we find a bottle of water with a small portion of water, we don't take care of it. We don't, like, sometimes we throw the bottle. But now we are fasting, and it's hot now, as you see, people live in Israel now. It's really hot. And I think now you appreciate that this portion of water is a sip of water. You can appreciate that. That's the same thing happened, after Ramadan. You have to appreciate what you have. And I think also that it's also a sense that people actually who has, and they can feel with the people who don't have. And I think that's the essence of Ramadan, is to feel with the unfortunate, with the people who have nothing to eat or to drink or to have. So I think this is a opportunity for us to feel the others. I think that's what we do. Lots of social things happens in Ramadan, lots of donations and people giving to others, and food banks and food packages, and to everyone to feel with the people who are actually in need for that food. And also about it's also is, I think, cleansing of the spirit, and also the body cleansing also. I think your body is also become to regularly, like to eat in a certain time, and all this and to eat and to fast. And I think that's only for your body is good. I think also, when your body is weak, your spirit is very, very strong. I think this is one of the essence of Ramadan. And I think, just to give you just what happened in Ramadan, that there are things that people are not allowed to do, or to if you are sick or you are pregnant or nursing, or I think you should, and God says you should not fast. I think this is things that we have to know, that not people are they are the need for the food or the medicine, so I think they're not allowed to fast. And I think this is the thing, that if you're traveling also, you're allowed not to fast in Islam. And I think that's about what I want to talk about. And I think if any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I think when I ask about, I'm here.
Thank you very much, Muad. We want to return now to Noor, and if you, I think we don't have time for the whole sweep of Islamic history, though we definitely want to invite you for that lecture. If you could bring us up to today, and to speak about Ramadan for you personally. In this In this program, we want to start from the personal, and we're going to then move out to the more communal and public spheres.
Thank you very much. Apologize for the technical problems. First of all, that Ramadan here in Indonesia is similar to any other countries, that is under the circumstance of pandemic COVID-19, so as not as great as previous Ramadans. So the ability to make taraweh in the mosque is limited, and most of the mosques are closed. And so we mix our taraweh every night at homes with members of family, not like before. Usually the Ramadan event is great for celebration, and the mosque more alive. Textual, that is starting from the order prescriptions of God towards Muslim. That is in the chapter of Al-Baqarah, verse 183. That is prescribes for the whole humanity of Muslim worldwide to fast during Ramadan, as it is recites in the Quran. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu kutiba alaikumus syiyam kama kutiba alal ladzina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Oh, you who believe, fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed upon those people before you, before the era of Prophet Muhammad. And who are they? It's the people of covenants, people of the receiver of the Torah and the receiver of the Gospel. So this, with this, should I share my, with this, that we try to understand why do the Indonesian people, similar to any other people, fast. That is for the and according to the At-Tabari, kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, that is ya ayyuhalladhina amanu furida alaikum asyam kama furida ala alladhina min qablikum min ahlil kitab. That is as was prescribed to those of the people of the covenant, ayyaman ma'dudat. Ayyaman ma'dudat here is how to mix parallel with the ma'dudat in the fasting is fixed number of days. Of days is from the first of Ramadan to the last of the Ramadans. Today is Monday, 18th of May. There is 24th of Iyar of the Jewish calendar, 14th of Omer. There is the 25th of Ramadan. And the Idul Fitri will be the first of Sifan's Rosh Chodesh. And that is the counted days. That is the Shavuot will be also at the time after Idul Fitri. The prescription says, "Faman kana minkum maridun aw ala safarin," and whoever among you who is sick or in the middle of journey, fa'idatun min ayyamin ukhar, so you can postpone your fasting after the Idul Fitri. And the safar, the journey, is as according to the Pasir, to the exegetes, is Ibn Umar and Ibn Abbas says that those who are able to not fast during Ramadan is in the safar as far as 3 days journey. 3 days journey is the common sense of the Middle Ages, not today. That is the far away from distance up to 3 days journey with camel in the desert, not by aeroplane. So that is the time of 3 days journey. Similarly, that is far away is similar to the Genesis 22nd, that is in the Aqidah Yitzhak, verse 4, that's a Yom Hashlishi, Wajisa Abraham ate enough on the 3rd days of the journey. Wajisa Abraham ate enough, and Abraham opened his eyes. Next, that 3 days journey. This is the traditions in the ancients of the long journey is counted from more than 3 days, 3 days or more. Not like today's, we can cover from Indonesia, from Jakarta to New York, less than 3 days. So this is the difference, difference the situations. So also, as according to the Qumran scroll, the 3 days journey, the far away of the safar, is described at the Qumran scroll, which is written in roughly 4th or 3rd century BCE. And on the scrolls written says, Ayoshfim Bamira Hox min hak mikdas derich shaloshat yamim. Those who live far away, as far as 3 days journey, so kol asher yukhlu lihabu yabu, whatever is can be brought to the sanctuary in Jerusalem, they can bring. But if they are unable to bring it, then they sell it for money and bring it the money, and it will they sell then by grain, wine, oil, cattle, and wa'akhluhu bayamai hamu adim, and they consume on the appointed days, as similar to the ayaman ma'dudat in the Quran, that is fasting is in the appointed days, not every days all the year. So this is the meaning of kama kutiba ala ladina min qablikum. This is the meaning of as it was prescribed upon those before you, before Muhammad time. So Ramadan is now is the 25th. Is here within the Ramadan is unzila fihil Quran, the month when the Quran was sent down. Where it is from the heaven to the, from the Lahul Mahfud to the Baitul Izzah. Hudan linnasi wa bayyinatin minal huda wal furqan, as the guidance for humanity and as the judgment law, that is Al-Furqan. This is one among the tafsir of Muqatil bin Sulaiman. Muqatil bin Sulaiman is the earliest mufassir in the 8th century, and he describes that Syahrul Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran means min lawhil mahfud fi 20 syahron wa unzila bihi Jibril alaihi salam 20 sanah. As according to him, that the Quran was sent down within this months of Ramadan, and eventually sent it down by Jibril one by one up to 20 years. That is the years from the life of Prophet Muhammad in Makkah, 13 years roughly, and in Madinah. So the Quran that was sent down in Makkah called as the Surat Makkiyah, and those Quran, part of the Quran that was sent down in Madinah called as the Ayat Madaniyah. So altogether codified become the 30 juz today, and standardized by the Caliph of Uthman bin Affan and become like the standards of Quran today that was sent down by Jibril one by one up to 20 years. But in fact, that 23 years that because Prophet Muhammad was residing in Madinah 10 years and residing in Makkah 13 years also altogether makes 23. That was starts in 609 CE and moved to Medina in 622 CE, and he was passed away in 632 or 33 roughly. So after that, the era was by Abu Bakar, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. And during the Umar era was the expansions of the territory up to Jerusalem, and he built a mosque next to the Church of the Holy Sculpture in honor of the Christians worshipper there to not distract when he want to make salat. So he built a mosque next to the Church of the Holy Sculpture. So the Quran this is the Quran in during Ramadan was sent down. Nazzala alaikal kitaba bil haqqi musaddiqan lima baina yadayhi wa anzala at-taurata wal injil min qablu hudal linnasi wa anzala al-furqan. That is it is he who sent down to you the truths. The covenant confirming the covenant that was sent down in their possessions already, that is the possessions of the Ahlul Kitab, the people of the covenants. Wa'anzala Taurat, and God is the one who sent down Torah to Moses on the Mount of Sinai. Now is toward that for the Jewish community, towards the Shavuot is to commemorate the receiving of the Torah on the Mount of Sinai. Next couple days after Idul Fitri. Wangzala Taurat wal Injil, as well as the one who sent gospel min qablu before the sending of the Quran. Both of the Injil and the Torah, the gospel and the Torah, are hudan linnasi, as the guidance for humanity. Wangzal al-Furqan, and God also sent within Torah and the gospel as the judgment law. That is al-Furqan. Al-Furqan meaning is to differentiate between right and wrong and between good and bad. Walaqad atayna Musa Haruna wal al-Furqan wa diya'an dzikra lil muttaqin. This is another verse that stating that Moses on the Mount of Sinai with Aaron under the Mount of Sinai receiving the Torah, al-Furqan, that is the law that to differentiates between right and wrong, wadiyaan wadikra lil muttaqin, as a light and reminder of for those who muttaqin, self-restraint. So I would like to remind for the Muslim that inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, or maybe the rest of this last part of Ramadan will be the Laylatul Qadar as the night of power. Laylatul Qadr as the definitions described by that ayat is Wama adraka ma Laylatul Qadr. What do you know about the Laylatul Qadr? Laylatul Qadar is khairun min alfi syahrin, is the count is equivalence value more than alfi syahrin, 1000 months. Salamun Tanazzalul malaikatu on that night that many angels go down to the earth. Waruhu as well as Jibril fiha bi'idni rabbihim with the permissions of God min kulli amrin from the every corner. Salamuns and they peace, they make dua for humanity, for those who ask the forgiveness that helped by the angels and by ruh up to hatta matla'il fajr, up to the rise of morning. And
Dr.
that's
Noor,
night. Yes.
sorry, I just, this is all very central and important, but I see our time is moving, and I want to give a chance to raise a few questions to all the panelists. So if you want to summarize, you've raised, I want to actually pick up on the last few points you've made about the end of Ramadan being a time of a focus on the Laylat al-Qadr, which traditionally is understood to be the day that the night that the first revelation of the Quran was revealed, and moving towards Eid al-Fitr. So perhaps I can start and ask you the first question, and that is, we've heard about the all these the manifold texts and the tradition and history. How is the end of Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr celebrated in Indonesia? If you could share with us one or two local practices, special distinctive practices in Indonesia about the end of Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr, and then I'll ask the others.
Thank you very much. Usually every year we celebrate the last of the Ramadan, especially in the 10 days last of Ramadan is more crowds in the mosque, but not this year because of the Ramadan in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic suffer. So the picture on the screen is the illustrations of a very rarely mosque that open. If that is open, then this is the picture. They sit from distance at least 1 meter between one to the other, left and right. But this is very rarely. The Majelis Ulama Indonesia, the Indonesian ulama officially issued encouragements for the Muslim to not make a prayer in the mosque because of this pandemic suffer. So usually in the city, similar to in the village, and in the city usually more empty because of the city Mude. Mude is go to the village from they come from usually, and Mude is a parallel equivalent to Aliyah. Aliyah is to go up, and Mude is to go up, even though the land is not go up but standard. So they go to the villages, meeting the family, visiting the graveyards of the ancestor, of parents, of grandfather and mother. So this is the traditions of Ramadan prior to Idul Fitri. And after Idul Fitri, people in the different local, they have different customs, such as in the northern parts of Java Islands, differently from the southern part of Java Islands. In the northern part, usually more live. That is up to 6 days after Idul Fitri, and they make a bawalan visiting one house to the others, door to door. That is the traditions, which is not happen in Saudi Arabia or in Egypt or in any other part I know. That is the culture of the Indonesian called as bawalan. Bawalan is visiting neighbor door to door and eat a food with the call as the makanan Idul Fitri, specific food usually. And in the northern part of Java Island, like Pekalongan and so on, they make the 7 days after Idul Fitri is much more live. Thank you.
Thank you. Maroua, can you share with us a few local distinctive customs and practices about the end of Ramadan and into Eid al-Fitr, the end of Ramadan, and the very much deserved celebration at the end of the long process?
Sure, definitely. I'm going to share with you some of the things that we actually do in Ramadan and Laylatul Qadr, and then what we do in Eid al-Fitr. So basically, the main practices in Morocco are Salat Tarawih. It is a must. I mean, life slightly changes even though people still work. However, in terms of religion practices, you can see large numbers of people going to the day prayers, unlike normal days. People are donating more charities every day, not just once, but every single day. Tarawih prayers are very practical here in Morocco. Everyone goes, from children to grown-ups to adults to women. Everybody's in the mosques. Reading Quran, the objective people actually make sure to at least finish reading the all of the Quran at least once, but many try to do it 2 or 3 times throughout the month. Everybody tries to do extra voluntary prayer as well as extra voluntary charity work. And then we have donations, which is really particular here in Morocco, is to donate food to the mosques and zawiyas. The families prepare and donate Moroccan couscous and Moroccan tagines, as well as milk and dates for especially for Laylatul Qadr and throughout the month to the mosques. Why they do that? Because we have this good deed when you are fasting is to try and to give food for someone who is fasting and in need. And as we all know, many people in need actually go to the mosques and eat, and you have a really huge reward in the eye of God, in the eyes of God, when you actually give food for someone who was fasting and he doesn't have something to break the fast with. And it is one of the best deeds that you can actually do in Islam in the eyes of Moroccans. And also, any good deed that you do throughout Ramadan, it is considered as double reward. So Moroccans try to do whatever it is good. It is a good deed to actually gain more rewards. So basically, for the night of Laylatul Qadr, it is considered the day of the 26th and the night of the 27th here in Morocco. And since all of the families go to the mosques and stay there all of the night, so they try to take food with them and to share it with everybody in the mosques. Also, they try to, when they give food, they ask people, please, for example, if you prepare a meal, they ask people to please pray for their loved ones who is, for example, sick. They want someone who is maybe in not so good state to pray for them. So yeah, this is what we actually do for Laylatul Qadr. Besides the prayers, it is a non-stop prayer night because it is believed in Islam that it is the night where God actually opens the skies and all of the prayers are listened to and are accepted. So this is why, especially here in Morocco, people stay all night up and praying throughout the night, and also sharing with the others the food, the prayers, and everything. And then for Eid al-Fitr. So what we do for Eid al-Fitr is, one second. Yeah. For Eid al-Fitr, we start our day by going to the mosques. Before anything, we go to the mosque. We do the Eid prayers, which are done in the Musalla, which is an open mosque. It's not a closed mosque, it's an open mosque, specifically for the Eid. So yeah, we go to the mosque. There is the imam gives a special lesson for the Eid, and then we do the prayers. After that, we go to celebrate with the families, with the neighbors. You have to congratulate all of your neighbors for the Eid, and then you start here. Then you go to the house, and then you start hearing the Andalusi music going from all of the houses. You start with the Moroccan tea, as you can see it here. Definitely, it is a must in our table to have the Moroccan tea, and then some Moroccan delices and cookies, often made at home by all of the members of the family, and they are shared. Most of the times they're made by either butter or almonds, so it depends. There are like the special cookies made by almonds and special cookies made by butter, and of course flour. And definitely, oh, I totally forgot this important part. After the prayers, because children are in the space of prayers, of course, they go with their families. You must have extra change with you in order to give it to the children as their idea, money for the Eid. So yeah, it is a kind of celebration for the children as well, for them to feel the atmosphere of Eid, the atmosphere of celebration and special celebrations. So yeah, we give them the money. Also, for Laylatul Qadr, most kids actually try to fast during the Laylatul Qadr, and at once, like, it is their first day fasting actually, for them to try and practice the fasting before they become adults, and they must fast. So when they fast the entire day, they go up through the ladder, and we give them dates and milk, and they actually celebrate with Moroccan costumes. We put gowns if they are we put crowns if they are girls, and yeah, we celebrate like that for them to get the atmosphere of Ramadan as well as Eid. That's basically it for Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, and Eid al-Fitr in Morocco. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Maroua. So what we're hearing is, as we move towards the end of Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, which is this, the Quran, as Dr. Noor has shown us, is considered, according to the Quran, better than 1,000 other nights, because it is the first, is seen as the first revelation of the Quran. And moving into the end in Eid. So Dr. Noor talked about in Indonesia, bringing in local customs of visiting ancestors, aliyah, the Indonesian term for going back home, and visiting the grave sites of ancestors. And Maroua, we just heard these wonderful stories, and you had told me previously of if you don't give money to your younger siblings, then you're in trouble. That we're moving from this intense experience that Muad had described so beautifully at the beginning, this spiritual training, towards this great experience of celebration, the heightened moment of Laylatul Qadr to Eid. Kutay, does any of this sound familiar to you in your experience in Turkey? If you could compare and contrast between how Eid is celebrated in Istanbul and in Turkey compared to what you've heard.
Thank you. Of course, there are some similarities, and also there are some differences. I would like to start with how restaurants serve in Ramadan month. Especially, I want to emphasize about the differences between small cities and big cities. Mostly in the big cities, restaurants are still open, but the menus change. Special iftar menus are prepared. They start with serving soup first, then the main meal. And in Ramadan also, you can see zeytun, hurma in the tables, since people want to break their fasting with zeytun and hurma. But in smaller cities, the restaurants can be closed, and there's some reason for this. In small cities, people may not open their restaurants because of their respect for Ramadan. Or another reason is that in small cities, people also can close their restaurant in Ramadan since they know each other better. They are very close. They are very close as a friend also, and they don't want to be criticized by others. But in Turkey, discriminate somebody else with these questions, such as why do you open your restaurant in Ramadan, or why you don't fast? About some local traditions. First of all, Ramadan month, I was also a kid, and I still remember this. The kids are visiting each houses in their neighbors, and ask candy or small amount of money. And when they doing it, when they visiting the adults, they're also kissing their hands, which is actually also there's Indonesia's that kind of tradition. They are kissing hand and put that hand on the head, and by doing that, actually every neighborhood is aware of each other, because when the kids visiting home, the adults also asking about how are your parents, is everything fine with your parents? So that neighbor is aware of each other. And also Eid al-Fitr, about Eid al-Fitr, the family visits constitute the most critical place of Eid al-Fitr. People care to visit family elders, relatives, and friends. If the family elders live in another cities, people care to go to their families and stay with them during Eid al-Fitr, which is 3 days or 4 days. And if that family is crowded, it means that all relatives are gathered together in Ramadan in the same home. At least in my family, we are like that. But actually, most of the Turkish family are like that. Therefore, you will have an opportunity to see your relatives that you have not seen all year, but only one part of the year, which is Eid al-Fitr. You have breakfast with them, you have a dinner with them, and since the most important thing in the world is family for me, what Ramadan has to offer to the Turkish people has a vital part or vital place in my life. But unfortunately, even if we cannot perform all of these mentioned practices due to the coronavirus today, we are still calling our families by phone. We celebrate their Laylatul Qadr and Eid al-Fitr of them, because in the tradition of Turkish society, respect for the adults has a significant place. And adults always waited to be visited in these important days. If not, like I give an example now, there are coronavirus, they at least wait for a phone call. So what Turkey this year, actually no exact information was given on whether the curfew by government, but the predicted curfew will continue until the end of the holiday, I think, for the security of society. And by the way, I want to thank you for listening to me. And I also would like to celebrate the Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr of whole Islamic world with my most sincere wishes.
Thank you so much. I want to turn now to Muad Odeh, and I would love for you to share some of your community's practices as we move to the end of Ramadan, and what does Eid look like? And then we're going to address some of the questions. There seems to be a lot of interest and curiosity about the Ahmadiyya community in Haifa, and if you could also address some of these questions specifically around what does Ramadan look like for the Ahmadis? Are there distinctive practices for Ahmadis as opposed to other Sunni Muslims. And also someone asked, how do you actually give zakat? It's traditional for all Muslims to give zakat, and a special kind of zakat as we move towards Eid al-Fitr. So how does that work here?
Yes, thank you. I think I will, because most of Maroua and Kutay and Dr. Noor, they talked about the celebration, and I think I won't add. That's the tradition, our tradition. Like as a Muslims, as Arabs, it's the same traditions. We have nothing to add. Because about the cookies and the food and the money, that I think that's the most significant for the Eid is for the kids. I don't think it's for us. It's for the kids and the money and how much I earn. I think that's the game that the kids are playing until now. I think this what affects us to now, who much gave us, and I think I know now who gave me the money, most money. I know I love this person, but now I know my grandma. She was very, very poor grandma. She has the little money that she gave us. Yeah, I remember that. I think that's the Eid for the kids. I think also as Laylatul Qadr, I think it's even with the coronavirus and what we cannot do the prayer together as a congregation or as a group, I think. But we're trying to keep in Haifa to keep in the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Haifa to keep the spiritual aspect of Ramadan. I think and I think we broadcast the prayer live from our imam's home, and we pray together, every family in our home as a congregation or as a family. We're praying together. I think that's to keep that the spiritual aspect of Ramadan. And Laylatul Qadr, yes, I think this is as what Maroua talks about, and everybody else talks about how the spiritual aspect of Laylatul Qadr. I think that's and when the doors of heaven are open and God will accept and listen to our prayers. I think that's opportunity for everybody of us to pray for everybody, to pray for humanity, to pray for to everybody like who is in need for our prayers. I think is not to pray to myself. I think keep your prayers to open to everybody, and I think that's when if we believe this is the gates of heaven are open. I think this is an opportunity for us to do that, to all us to like remove this this virus from our life as soon as possible. I think that's one of the key things that we have to pray, and and to heal the sick people, and to forgive our people who passed away this year. And I think this is the opportunity for this Laylatul Qadr for us. I think this is to keep the spiritual aspect of it, and I think to gain of the whole thing about Ramadan. And the same with the Eid. The Eid is also the prayers, and I think also it's time for people to get together, and I think it's visiting each other, each homes, and I think that's the spirit out of the Eid. And the most important thing, to keep Ramadan for the rest of the year. What we did now, keep it. Keep the change. To be better, and to give, and to donate, and to do the zakah. And I think that's what we do. And I think that's why also in Haifa we do the zakah. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community have a different also approach, that we also having our own donations, that every member donate 6.25% to the congregation, and that's what we do. And people also donate 10% from their income every month. Zakah, that's something else. Something that you have to take out of the savings. That's what you save all year. You have to take out a percentage out of it, and to give it to the. And we have here in our congregation here in Haifa, we have a person who a treasury man in charge for the money and financial issues. And I think people come and donate, and this is the time to spread this money to the people who actually need. I think that we give them before the Eid. We give them the money and the amount that they need. And I think there are some people actually calling and asking for the money, and we know there's people in need, and also it goes to people actually who are not Muslims also. That's what happened in Haifa. Part of the money goes not only for Muslims or Ahmadi Muslims. I think it goes to people actually who are asking for the help.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to take those very moving words of yours, Muad, and all of our wonderful panelists, and to bring this evening to a close, or this morning or afternoon. I want to thank each and every one of you, Dr. Noor Munir, Maroua Ech, Sharqawi, Tufan Kutay Boran, and Muad Odeh. Thank you very much. I think as we've heard as I talked about at the beginning, these common threads, these themes we interweave across such disparate communities and cultures, and how these beloved and shared traditions, the beautiful text that Dr. Noor shared with us, and the wonderful images that we heard from Maroua about children and about families. And Kutay, you shared, thank you for your comparative insights as you move across these cultures, and that we really see today in this global community we all live in, that global Islam really has a tremendous amount of overlapping ideas and values, and that Ramadan really, I've been told, really is the goal to bring out the best in us, and then to have that carry us through the rest of the year. I think Jews can very much relate to this idea of those last hours or moments of Yom Kippur, which is the pinnacle of our spiritual intensity. And then the question is, how do you carry it forward? And that is not just an Islamic imperative, that is a human imperative, both in terms of what is going on today with the tremendous needs of the COVID virus. And then I think we all feel that interwoven human experience and what every one of us can contribute. So thank you so much for your gifts of your time and your ideas and your teachings. I just will share that tomorrow we continue the conversation with Yossi Klein Halefi and Imam Abdullah Antepi, who will be talking about God. And continuing these conversations towards the end of Ramadan. And then thank you, Noor, for reminding us as we move towards the holiday of Shavuot, to think about these very basic central religious ideas and theological ideas in our shared traditions. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for having us.
Wow.
Have a good day.
Guys.